The end of life has its own nature, also worth our attention. Mary Oliver. Mary Oliver was an American poet, the author of this poem, Oxygen, which I'm going to be talking about today. She was born in Maple Heights, Ohio on September 10, 1935, and died in Hobe Sound, Florida on January 17, 2019. This poem was written not long before she died in 2005. During this time, writing this poem, Mary did not know of her illness yet until years later in 2015. In her home, she was treated for a disease called lymphoma, which is a type of cancer in the lymph system. She speaks about how someone who is seriously ill but doesn't convey the poem in an upsetting tone, but rather than an optimistic outlook to the reader. Even though the situation being spoke about is maybe depressing, Oliver keeps the poem uplifting to her readers. She is saying how beautiful and precious our lives are, explaining that we should be more grateful and appreciative for the things that we have in our lives because we may take them for granted.
Everything needs it, bone, muscles, and even, while it calls the earth its home, the soul. So the merciful, noisy machine stands in our house working away in its lung-like voice. I hear it as I kneel before the fire, stirring with a stick of iron, letting the logs lie more loosely. You in the upstairs room are in your usual position, leaning on your right shoulder, which aches all day. You are breathing patiently. It is a beautiful sound. It is your life, which is so close to my own that I would not know where to drop the knife of separation. And what does this have to do with love, except everything? Now the fire rises and offers a dozen singing deep red roses of flame. Then it settles to quietude, or maybe gratitude, as it feeds, as we all do, as we must, upon the invisible gift, our purest sweet necessity, the air.
And now I'll be going into more depth of the poem, explaining the meaning behind it. The opening line of the poem, everything needs it, bone, muscles, simply ask what our body needs are. Following that line, even while it calls the earth its home, the soul compares nature against life. She describes that everything needs oxygen to survive. Oxygen is a gift and one of the many important things in our lives because oxygen provides air for us to breathe. So the merciful, noisy machine describes keeping the ill one being taken care for by stabilizing them. Merciful means showing compassion towards others, and Oliver uses this to show us that breathing gives us life, which is a gift. I hear it as I kneel before the fire, stirring with a stick of iron, letting the logs lie more loosely. Pictures an image of the caretaker moving the wood around in the fireplace to keep the wood burning. A connection can be made through this from the fire itself and the ill patient. If you have trouble breathing, it's like the fire that doesn't have enough wood to keep burning. So without the wood, the fire would not burn. Without the noisy machine, you would not breathe. Another connection that can be made is that it can also describe what a situation may be to watch a loved one die slowly. You hold on as long as you can, keeping the fire going, but eventually there will be no more wood, no more oxygen to keep going. Time will run out, and before you know it, your loved one will be gone. You, in the upstairs room, are in your usual position, leaning on your right shoulder, which aches all day, provides us with yet another image of where the caretaker is and what the ill patient is doing. I believe Mary Oliver wrote with her right hand, which shows the connection of the patient leaning on her right shoulder, as most people would. You are breathing patiently. It is a beautiful sound. Represents the ill patient still living and breathing is beautiful because they are sounding the sound of life. Because I do not think anyone should hear this devastating sound of a flatline or no heartbeat pulse. I would not know where to drop the knife of separation. And what does this have to do with love except everything? A strongly worded line that explains how difficult deaths can come upon us. We cannot separate ourselves from our dying loved ones because we feel as if in their last moments they are inseparable. Drop the knife of separation, in other words, means I wouldn't know when to let go. Also meaning you never know when you'll move on from the death. Everyone is different in their own situations as to how long time takes them to move on from the death of a loved one. Now the fire rises and offers a dozen sinking deep red roses of flame. The fire signifies the anger and sadness people feel when a loved one is gone and they said their last goodbyes. Red roses, or any general flowers, are very common at funerals, but the flaming red roses signify the anger and sadness being put down to finally let the dying loved one rest in peace. Then it settles to quietude, or maybe just gratitude, as it feeds, as we all do, as we must, upon the invisible gift of our purest, sweet necessity, the air. In other words, the flaming red roses, also known as the anger and sadness of people, finally rest. Everyone is grateful for their lives, as they should, because the most beautiful gift we have ever received is a pure, sweet necessity of the air. This poem ends on a reflection of how a person feels after attending a funeral or going through the death of a loved one. At the end of the day, you must be thankful for your life and be thankful for the life your lost loved one lived. Mary Oliver was a writer who went on for a very long time without becoming tired. She truly wanted to live her life, even if her cancer of lymphoma held her back from anything. As a young poet, she kept reserved from her private life, especially while she met her long-loved partner, Molly Malone Cook, at Steepletop, a museum in New York. Mary Oliver once said in an interview, "I had a very dysfunctional family and a very hard childhood." Her suffering of her childhood and cancer did not let it change her. Her poems had a main theme, the relationship between the human life and the natural world. Even in our sorrowful world, she still found a way to show its beauty and life through it. She is a poet of wisdom and generosity, whose vision allows us to look intimately at a world not of our making, a reviewer once said from Harvard Review. And as she said in her poem, When Death Comes, I don't want to end up simply having visited this world. Thanks for watching.